Hi, Raven. Welcome to the Women Waken podcast.
Hi, Whitney. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy to
Yes.
have you here. I am
Oh my God.
really excited about our conversation. I've been excited about this since back in May when we first talked,
I
and
know.
we had met at an event online and we
Yeah,
connected and we had a beautiful conversation when we scheduled your podcast. And we talked about some amazing things that I have been thinking about ever since and couldn't wait to talk about that
I know.
you include in your work. So
And I've been stalking your podcast, by the way. You have amazing women that you've interviewed. I mean, some that I have been following for a long time. So I'm really honored to be here. Yeah.
yeah, there's been some fantastic guests. I've been so blessed to have these people kind of come into my life. And a lot of women who have based their work in either sex work or, sex educators or sex coaches, which I think is so important and powerful and amazing,
Mhm.
right? So now we have you here today to really kind of expand our minds about Tantra is one thing. You're a Tantra practitioner,
Yes.
but you're so much more because you also really work with people to start to have fun again with sex, start to explore sex, and you do a lot of couples work, right?
Yes, I love doing couples work. It's
Yeah.
so rewarding. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and that's, a very intimate setting to be working with a couple on their sex life. I think that it's a wonderful thing. Yet I think there's a lot of people who are intimidated by that. Like, oh, we can't go talk to somebody about our sex life. Like
We
that's
can't even spouses don't even talk to each other about their sex life, let alone talk to somebody else. So this is why I'm here.
yeah. But then, oh, what magical things can happen when you actually reach out and open yourself to guidance. Because what you've shared with me about your work and what you've experienced in your, sexual evolution and experiences, it sounds amazing. And I already told you that when I have my partner, I cannot wait to come to you so you can get us on the Tantra train because
Yes,
it sounds awesome.
yes. It's endless. The Tantric
Woo!
is endless.
Perfect.
Highly orgasmic and endless.
All right. Well, I think you're going to get us started today, Raven, with a little thing that you call sex mastery breath. I feel like
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
sexual mastery
exercise.
breath.
Yeah. What is that? Because it
I
sounds delightful.
love jumping into it right away because rather than like tell you 10, 20, 30 minutes about Tantra, I just want you to experience it. And this is exactly what I do with my clients. Like they walk through the door and it's like, yeah, we've done some talking and intake and things of that nature, but it's like, boom, let's do it. So I'm inviting everyone to get comfortable and just where they are. And if you're familiar at all with the Kegel muscle, and if you don't know what it is, the Kegel muscle is when you have to pee and you hold it, it's that muscle. So this breath is a sexual mastery breath because it deals with the energy in through the chakra system. And if you don't know about chakras, you can do some research on them. But just know we have energy centers that are around our spine. And so this breath is going to start. We're going to start with squeezing our Kegel, and we're going to imagine that the breath is actually going from our root chakra. And on the in breath, it's going to move up our spine. We're imagining this, right? And then we're going to land right here at the top of our head. And then there's two different versions of this breath that I'm going to show you. And the first one I'm going to show you is when called grounding the sexual energy. And it is on the out breath, we're going to send the energy back down through the chakras and land back into the root. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it one time for you, and then we could do it together. Okay. You ready? And remember, please don't pay attention to what it looks like me doing it because I've had a lot of training in breath work and tantric and energy medicine. So I'm very activated. It runs through me. And so for me, I can actually orgasm from breath. So, but that doesn't mean it has to be where you are right now.
Okay. Well, I'm going to want to hear more about that too later. So let's put that on the books
Okay.
for later in the episode.
This is what my breath looks like. So I'm squeezing. Feels so good. All right, now we're going to try it together. So we're going to squeeze your Kegel muscle, and you're going to imagine an in-breath, breathe in. Get to the top of the head, and then you exhale down, back to the pelvis. How did that feel?
Very relaxing. Very
Yeah,
grounding.
very grounding, very relaxing. And so I'm just going to show you the alternate breath for. So this one's grounding. The one I'm about to show you is it's it actually is for arousal, and it actually invites more energy to circulate. So it's not going to be as grounding. It's going to be more excitement. And so it's going to look like this. It's the same thing. You're going to breathe in with your Kegel. It's going to travel up, but instead of grounding, we're going to invite it to be like a gold, like glitter, like shower that like radiates all outside of you down your auric field. So it's going to look like this. This is my version. So yours could be different. So. So see how that one's a little bit different?
Yeah, I see it.
All right, let's just try that one really quick.
Okay.
So squeeze your Kegel, in breath. And all the glitter and white light coming down. You can make a noise. So you may be able to get a sense of when to use each breath. So I give the grounding one to men quite a bit because they usually want to last longer. Right? So that allows them to like have more choice with their sexual energy. Like, oh, do I want to be more in an arousal state, or do I want to like be on the journey for a little bit longer? And so men use that grounding one quite a bit. I tell women to go to town with the excitement one because we can have endless orgasms. So I'm just like, the only time that you want to use the grounding one is if you're at work, you're out running errands, like you need to like compose yourself, then use the grounding one. So
beautiful. Well, thank you so much for those. That was a great introduction into our exploration today of all things sexual energy, Tantra, connection, all of that. All of that. So as we jump in, Raven, I would love to for you to share with the audience a little bit about yourself and how you came into this work and this place where you are now, where this is your livelihood. This is the work you do. This is your profession. You are a master of a practitioner of Tantra. So how did you get here? What was your path like?
Yeah, it's been a long road to hoe. I'll tell you that much. I call my pathway the pressure cooker method because literally I feel like my sexual energy and my sexual explorations were just like put a lid on it and pretend it's not there for 30 years. Just, and obviously we know that doesn't work. I was born and raised Jehovah's Witness. So I was born raising literature, masturbation, how to fight the urge. You can only have sex after you get married. So don't touch yourself, don't be a sexual person. And then when you're married, you can finally have sex, but then still don't be too sexual. And so there was like, it was really suppressing.
Yeah. Were there messaging about that sex was shameful in a way, that it was like gross, it was dirty if it was done in any way other than to procreate within a marriage?
Yeah, like basically it was just like, we're here to procreate, but yet they're still allowed to use birth control. So it was very confusing. And for me, it was more like just the absence of education was what was suppressing to me. It was like, here I am, like a sexual being, like we all are, and I'm not being talked to about anything sexual, like my body, what's going on with it, what's, when I have natural urges, is that okay? And so I had a lot of sexual energy, and I didn't have any idea what to do with it. All I knew was taboo, especially my sexual orientation. I'm bisexual. That was a huge taboo, being a Jehovah's Witness. And so I had this attraction for women and men, and like, what do I do with all that? And that's not allowed. So I just put a lid on it, and it was just until finally, the volcano, and it was just like, I need to deal with this. I need to deal with this sexual energy, this life force energy that I've been feeling all my life. And so I literally took a year just to study sexuality, sex. I entered a series of workshops with an amazing institution, the Human Awareness Institute. And I just like one right after the other. I just like dug deep into all my sexuality issues. And what was in there is that I didn't want to have sex. I was in my mid 30s before ever had an orgasm from oral pleasure. I was 25 before I even orgasmed. So I was just like a newborn baby in, this field. And
Yeah.
so I just like took it on full time and was just like, this is an intricate part of myself that I need to open. And wow, it's like really emotional just thinking about how suppressed I was, and then how liberated I am now, and how I get to enjoy my body and have a positive body image, and enjoy sex and be able to ask for what I want, in all areas of my life. And it's just, when I landed into Tantra, it was just like, it was the perfect, I don't know, the word that comes to mind is like flower bed, because that's what it reminds me of. It's just like, I just needed a place to bloom. That's what Tantra was for me. So I did my first few years of Tantra was just for me. I was healing I learned sexual mastery for me, self-pleasuring, how to be in relationships with other people, in a very different way, a very conscious, communicative way, be in a relationship with men. And then when I went back to school, when I did my Dakini practitioners program with two of the most powerful priestesses on the planet, Lourdes Starshower and Maria Fazingo. Lourdes teaches trainings, and she is the most powerful priestess in this area. So she is the one that really set me on the path to teach it to other people and to use what I've learned, and to bring, and out of that naturally came couples work, because I became really good at balancing, because I think it has to do probably with my bisexuality, like balancing feminine and masculine energy, and
Yeah.
how to like really encourage them to work together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm curious, Raven, when you first, I mean, coming from such, suppression of your sexuality and sort of, confusion and mixed messages around it and mixed messages based on your feelings versus what you were told, when you first started, training in these areas and first started having sexual experiences, what was that like for you? And because I ask this because I imagine that you probably work with people who have maybe been very shut off or closed down sexually. And so the first time that they try to open to the idea of, wow, maybe I can have pleasure, maybe that's something that I can do safely, that I can feel good about and not feel shame about. How did you move into it, or were you ready for that? Had you already kind of changed your view around it, or did it take a while to open to it?
Yeah. The thing is that we're all sexual beings. And so this was something that is the essence of who I am, that was always inside of me, like it is for everybody. So it wasn't something that kind of like, is like, ooh, birthed into my life and came out of me. It was just something that I finally was allowed a vehicle to accept myself for who I am, and to allow this energy to express itself in a community that is very supportive of me, and it's very safe for me to express myself. So an example of that is that the reason, a very personal example that I'll give you, which I'm happy to share, is that I didn't really ever like receiving oral pleasure, because what happened is that what I found out later is that was too intense. It was just like, and women experience this a lot as far as we sometimes we engage, we have sexual arousal that sometimes we will push away from, because it's like, whoa, it's like super intense, you know? And so that's what it was for me. And I really had these workshops where, and Tantra in particular, was a safe space for me to be like, actually, what happens if you let it out, Raven? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Just let it rip, you know? But I don't recommend that like in any space. I recommend that you really do it in like a home environment or a workshop space with people that you know are really able to hold space for you. And I had that space to finally just let it go. And once I actually like, it was big at first, it was super big. And to be honest, like that's when ejaculation came into my life, because I was just like, oh my God, it's just so pent up, like it's gonna blow. And it did blow. And that happened. But now that I'm able to just like be with it now and actually celebrate it. And you know what? Bless men, because I love men so much, because they celebrate so much of women's sexual energy and expressions and body image. And they are just really, my experience has been that they've been very accepting, loving, encouraging, and been like, yeah, like, let it go, Raven.
Yeah. Whatever it is, whatever it looks like or sounds like, let's see it.
And I'm like, oh, it's messy. I can't do that. And they're just like, no, like, bring it.
Yeah.
I finally believed them. And once I did, and then it's like, oh my gosh, thank you. And so, yeah, it was a scary. And that's what, when I work with women these days, is I definitely work with where they are in their life path, because that's just not something I would have been able to do in my 20s. It's just scary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it takes time to feel like you're ready to guide and lead others. And, in your 20s is such a time of, you're still very much on that path of discovering and working through stuff and figuring out who you are and what you're all about. And then that's why I feel like later life and even midlife is a peak point for women, especially because, that's when we do really feel like we step into our own in a lot of ways, with our confidence, with our sexuality, with our goals, with our visions, with our purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think it's hard for women. I mean, it's hard for all of us to find our way, men absolutely will as well. But I think women, especially, because it can be hard to know what we really want, because we're often, sometimes we're told what we're supposed to do, or there's a lot of messaging around what, path we're supposed to take or things we're supposed to do. And I think the more they're able to say, kind of like you did, like, what if I just let it go and just do what I love and just do what I like and see what happens? And then it's like, oh, damn, this is fun.
Yeah.
And because look at your job. Like, who wouldn't say like, dang, I want to have my job all about, multiple infinite orgasms and sexual pleasure.
Every time I get out of a session, I'm just like, is this my job? This is amazing, but it's also very heartfelt, because, there's a lot of trauma involved sometimes, especially with women and also men as well. So it's just very deep personal work. And I think that we all somehow get ascribed to to do our, path.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It is, I mean, you cannot separate sex once you get into true sexual expression from everything else, from your deepest emotions to your, your fears, your insecurities, your joys. It's all in there. And it's like this volcano that once sounds like happened to you, but to a lot of people, when you finally let it open, it's like, oh my gosh, like so much is being expressed. And of course, I can't wait for you to share everything about Tantra and how you work with people. But I will say that I feel like and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I actually recently had my first Tantra experience with a partner, because it was the first time that I ever felt this. It was almost like a Kundalini experience when I was having sex, like a weight, like this energy pulled through my body that felt like their energy coming through me. And it just felt like the deepest connection I've ever felt. And I know it sounds, um, it doesn't sound right, but sometimes sex can actually not feel that intimate. Sometimes sex can just feel like it's someone, just a little bit of this.
So a ship passing in the night.
Yeah. And then it's done. But when you actually like allow it to go to that next level, it's like, oh my gosh, like your essence is inside of me. Like this is intense.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was tantric because for the first time I cried. I've never like cried during sex, but I just became so emotional, which brings me back to our earlier point, which is that you can't disconnect the two. Once you open yourself to sexual exploration, you're opening your emotional pathways, which is so healthy, which is why, of course, the work that you do is also healing, because when you can let it all go as sex, you let repressed and deep feelings come through and just so cathartic. So so I would love for you to share more with us about what the work that you do with your clients and what you discovered getting into Tantra and the Tantra community about this deep exploration and, fun and pleasure of that amazing sexual experience at its peak.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to speak of a couple things that you said, which was one, it being like once you allow, your sexual energy, give your sexual energy free expression, it influences every part of your life. So when I started doing this and I began to be really like sexually free in my body, I began to experience deeper intimacy in relationships that I always wanted to experience. I began to like be available for more opportunities, like job opportunities, geographic locations, like, people would invite me to like live in their house for, a month or whatever. And it was just like, all of this opening, in every part of my life, because like you said, you can't separate it. And so it's so crucial and it's so important for everybody. And the second thing is when you mentioned like about feeling energy during sex, for me, I would say that anytime you experience energy like that, it's tantric. Tantric means the weaving of. It's like the weaving of, it could be energy with sex. It could be practices. It could be, meditation with, but anytime you experience that, whether you know it or not, I believe that it's tantric. Because I believe that Tantra is actually a natural expression of our human divinity. So it's within all of us already. We already got the download. I'm just out here with the words.
Yeah. So would that be your definition of Tantra?
Or is Tantra is actually a spirituality practice that's based in Hinduism and Buddhism. So it's actually not just sexual. It's actually only a very small part of it actually deals with sacred sexuality. And so I encourage anyone to really do more research on Tantra as a spirituality practice. It's like saying like Buddhism is only meditation. We know that's not true. So same thing with Tantra. It's just that it's been westernized, and we deal with a lot of the sex components with Tantra and tantric sex, probably because that's what's repressed here. And that's what needs the most healing and help in having people be more balanced. So Tantra is a sacred spiritual practice.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you. And then, so in this Tantra practice, where do you start with people? What do you incorporate in your work? Like, let's say like someone like me, where it's like, wow, because I wasn't even looking to engage in Tantra, but I just had such a strong connection with this person and it just kind of happened. And so now I'm like, well, how do I explore this more? So if people come to you and they're like, well, what is Tantra? How do I get into it? How do you work with new clients? How do you do that?
Yeah, there's 3 different scenarios that I receive most common. So men, women, and couples. And so I can describe a little bit about how what I offer in each of those scenarios. And so when women come to me, they usually come to me with low libido, hormone changes, like they have changes in their sexuality as far as like the level in which they engage with sex or attraction, or they want to meet a soulmate, uh, that type of experience. And they just want to feel themselves again. And so I will do the 3 pillars of Tantra that you can remember, which is a part of my 5 pathways to pleasure that I can speak of later, but is breath, sound, and movement. So the best way to remember these is think about what you do naturally when you're making love. You breathe, we make sounds, and we move.
That pretty much covers it.
Okay, so
I mean, touch. We put touch in there. I guess that's part of movement.
Oh, you're so good, Whitney. That's the 4th the pathway to pleasure. You totally spoiled it, but yes.
It took me a second to even get that. Oh yeah, we also touch while we're doing it.
Yeah, I hope so. Touch, of course, is a huge one. So with women, I really help them with these practices like breath, sound, movement. I have exercises with their pelvic muscles, and they can and stretches and yoga that they can do to begin to feel really embodied, you know, and be in their body. And also very important to the feminine is communication. So I spend time communicating with women and being like, what's really happening? Like, what's really going on? You know, tell me, the Sanskrit word for vagina is yoni.
Yep.
Tantra is yoni. And so I will ask them, like, what's going on? Have her speak. What's happening? What's going on with her? And then we can continue to work together with introducing tantric exercises. And I also offer yoni massages, which is a incredibly healing experience, especially for women, because to be able to be touched in a healing environment that is all about sacred, honoring, healing, permission with no performance. So this is a place where you're not expected to moan. You're not expected to do anything. Like, literally, I want you to just be in tune with your body and sink in and be like, yeah, like, what does my body feel like? Because to be honest, Whitney, that is probably our number one challenge, is we're just not tuned into our body. Yeah. If we're tuned into our body, we know exactly what we're supposed to be doing and not supposed to be doing, and who we're supposed to be doing it with. Right? How many times has it happened where you've done something and you're later like, yeah, in my gut, I knew not to do that.
All the time.
Yeah. So that's what those sessions are really amazing for women. And
I think especially that comes up with sex with women, because there's a lot of, you know, again, what we're supposed to do or should want to do, you know, and so, and it can be, you know, I think that also can cause a lot of trauma to women throughout their lives, is kind of that, like you said, where you later look back and you're like, I didn't really want to do that. Or I wasn't really fully present, or I was really kind of just putting on a show because I felt like I was supposed to. And that it is hard to sit with. I think we've all been there to a certain degree, where it's like, I don't, you know, my gut was, like you said, my gut was telling me no, but
yeah.
And go ahead.
As a matter of fact, one of the most powerful exercises I'll do with a woman is I will just lay my hand on her arm or leg or whatever, and I'll just say, tell me to remove it.
Ooh.
And just that, I mean, I got chills. It's that powerful to have practice of being, remove your hand. And then I do it. And we'll practice it, you know, and they're just like, they'll be like, oh my God, that was just life-changing to be able to know, to remember to have the voice. Please remove your hand. I don't want that.
Yes. And that we do have a voice, because as you were speaking to earlier about communication, I think for women, again, that's one of the things that's the scariest sometimes, or the thing that we sort of avoid in sex, is to actually say, I'd really like this, or can you do this, or can we try this, or can you not do that? And it's, instead it can feel, like, okay, I just got to go with this, or so I think that communication is left out because, well, for a lot of reasons. One is fear, but also maybe not even knowing what we want or how to, and because if we don't know how to enjoy sex, then what do we even know what to ask for?
Yeah, absolutely. I swear you were so tuned in, Whitney, because like you were just like stealing my exercises. Like,
Sorry.
no, it's so amazing, but it's a perfect example of how we already know this information. And sometimes we just need a little guidance, because I do that exact same thing with my couples where I have them practice. Now ask for something you want, for that reason that you were just talking about. So
Yeah. Beautiful.
yeah, and so that's women. I love working with women. All, by the way, cis, transgender, all on the spectrum, non-binary. And then men, I love working with men as well. I get like super like emotional and teary-eyed because
Good.
I get to see men's wounding.
Mm.
So they come to me because and from their mouth, they've said that they don't have the spaces and the places that women have
Yeah.
express and to process. They're out there just all by themselves, all this pent up frustration, afraid to ask for what they want, their desires, that they do want sex, that they do like this, that they do like that, because they're trying to walk the line of being respectful and honoring and not want it too much. And you know what I mean? And I get to see that, like, and it's just been so like, I just hold space for that, and I feel so honored that they feel safe enough. I mean, I've had them say things like, you women are so lucky that you get to express yourselves, or like, I feel so alone,
Yeah.
and so the work that I do with men, I do the breath work. And depending on if they have, sometimes they have like erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation. But I can't stress enough that, which is an interesting wording that I just used, because that's the main cause for most of the sexual dysfunctions that I see are stress.
Mhm.
So they're usually working a lot, stressed, pent up. And so I really work with them on a different communication wavelength. That's not as much verbal communication, but I just kind of like tune in and I listen, and I do like a 5 elemental touch exercise with them, that's clothes on, and it just allows them to like begin to feel touched. And the thing about men is like they process a lot through touch and sex.
Mhm.
Okay. And this is my call out to women. And this is my dream. Maybe this is a good segment into couples, because my mission in this is for men to sink into their emotions, know that there's a safe space to express, being able to be more communicative and intimate with women.
Mhm.
And then it's my mission for women to show up more safely sexually,
Mhm.
because I feel like when those two meet, then the feminine and the masculine are getting their needs met.
Yes.
What's happening right now is that women are not having sex because I feel like it's the wrong mood, or they're stressed, or they're resentful, they have trauma for good reason. There's a very good reason for this. But I'm saying that we have our work to do to deal with this,
Yeah.
to meet the men. And then the men, they are very like deeply caring, emotional creatures. They just need a safe space
Yeah.
to do that. So this leads me to couples.
Your favorite, huh?
Oh my gosh, I love couples so
That's some of my favorite. I love doing couples therapy. That's
yeah.
it's so engaging and fun, and I love it. And just it's I mean it's also I mean talk about sacred. I mean to see the union of two people, their love, and you are this person coming in to just sort of facilitate this shift, this growth, this clearing between the two. It's pretty remarkable to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, when you see them like connecting.
Yeah.
And my couples, they've been together for everywhere from 2 to 25 years. I have quite a few couples that are plus 20 years that I get. They just want to like learn how to, they want to spice things up. They want to learn how to, get it on in a whole new way and communicate and stay connected. And those are my favorite. I just love couples. I see same-sex couples, heterosexual couples. Like, I just love two human beings that really want to, find a way to sink in deeper with each other. So I do in my couple sessions, I am all about balancing the feminine and the masculine. So what I just spoke about. So in couples, I go back and forth between feminine and masculine exercises. So an example of a feminine exercise is active listening. You're aware of this one, right?
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so important.
Right.
In-
So I do active listening, just a short little like example of it, because I don't want it too lengthy, but it's really powerful for the men to do this, because I just have them where they just mirror back exactly what each person is saying, right?
Yeah.
And I say, notice that your beloved is able to express themselves, and you don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to like take it on. You don't have to take it personal. Like literally, I'm just training them how to hold space for the divine feminine's intelligence. And what's our intelligence? Emotional variance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the men just go like, what? I don't know what's happening. And so active listening is one example that I give. And then I move into like the touching exercise. And then always after that, the men are just like, and then I give them the opportunity to receive a 3-hour tantric date night blueprint.
Oh.
So I have a handout that I give them, and I go step by step, like, okay, this is how you guys are going to plan out the most luxurious, delicious 3-hour tantric date night experience. And they love that.
And then what would that look like? What was again for people who are not familiar with Tantra and they're like, okay, well, maybe my partner and I want to try this out. What would that night look like? Does it start with, I mean, because people might wonder, like, does it start with like just going straight into the bedroom to sex? I mean, does it start with just spending time together, talking? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, good question. So the first hour is just these somatic embodied tantric exercises that I show them when I meet with them, either in person or over Zoom, because I see people all over the world over Zoom. It's amazing. Like,
wow. Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask that. And you see people in person as well as virtually?
yes.
Okay.
Now, when it's in person, it's super luxurious because I can actually be there, like facilitating some of the, the exercises.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And so the first hour is just these exercises. It's like feminine, masculine exercises, getting met, connecting, yab yum. Like, have you heard of yab yum?
No, what's that?
It's a position. So it's a tantric position. It's super sweet for bonding and intimacy. And it's just like an embrace, just embracing each other.
Is it when you're like you're chest to chest, like face to face? And is it like sort of like you're wrapped around each other, like sitting on someone's lap, basically?
Yeah. 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 Like you're straddling them.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, it's super sweet. Okay. And so that's the first hour. So then
you sit in that position for an hour? Just
no.
Oh.
That's just one of
okay. It's one of them.
So I have there's about 3 or 4 exercises that I suggest within that hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next 2 hours is couples are switching, giving each other massages, tantric massages.
Ooh. Now, what's the difference between a regular massage and a tantric massage?
That's a long answer.
Is there a short version? Like, is it just
Slow.
more like, it's slow?
Slow.
Okay.
Very slower, even slower. Like I tell men all the time, I'm like painfully slow. Just like, it's just so slow.
Yeah. Well, for good reason, because I know that, in past experiences with partners, when we've had a time where like maybe we decided not to have sex one night, but we were still wanted to be intimate.
Yeah.
And then you just do like a massage. And when you do take your time, you realize like that your whole body is covered in various zones that are sensitive, and every part of your body has nerve endings. So, touching people's feet and their toes and their calf, their thigh, every nook and cranny is just, it's such an experience when you take your time. But I think when we're used to this sort of like allotted amount of time for sex, we just skip over everything. And it's not until sometimes, I think most people are forced to slow down again, because maybe you can't be intimate one night or whatever it is. And then you find yourself slow, and it's like, whoa, there's so much to experience here with this whole body and your body and mine and all the things we can do.
Yeah. So the breath, the sound, the movements while you're giving massage, breath, sound, and movement is working. And I go into detail, like how you're going to approach it and what you're going to do. And I give you the 5 different types of touch that we've already discovered what your partner really loves. And I even, I say that actually, I recommend that the 3-hour date session close before you even have sex. Like, I say you're not even allowed to have sex in that 3 hours. Now, have I failed at this? Yeah, miserably, like many times. Okay. But the point is it's super important that we each give our partners the space to have that non-performance zone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For men, it's like, you can, whatever happens on, like, you can, whatever, erection, non-erection, like, it doesn't matter.
Well, how do you work with, I'm curious about how you work with men with that, because I imagine there's a lot of pressure for men to be hard all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not realistic if you're in a 3-hour session, there's not going to be hard all the time. So I feel like for men, it must be like sort of a psychological thing. Like, oh, is this okay? Is this going to be, are they going to feel a certain way? So does that come into your work at all about how men kind of maneuver through that?
Probably the number one concern of men.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing this, is because why are we so obsessed with an erect penis? Like, there's so much pleasure that can be had, A, on our entire body.
Yeah.
And B, yeah, why does the penis need to be hard? Like, it's fun when it's not hard. It's like just one part of your body. And when I express this to men, and also I work with women or the partners, depending on the sex or the genders, the partners, I just let them know, like, yeah, there's so many different ways to have sex.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be intercourse.
Yeah. And that sounds freeing for both men and women, because in women, we also sometimes feel like, well, if it's not hard, am I doing something wrong? Are they not happy to be here? Are they not excited? Are they not attracted to me? And so it's like both of us are suffering because of these misconceptions about expectations.
I know. It's so amazing when the couples get done with me. They're just like, oh my God, I just can't believe what a difference our sex life is, and our intimacy with each other is so deep. And it's not based on genitals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're so obsessed with genitals for good reason. I mean, they're great, but I mean, it's not all there is.
Correct. Yes. Like, I call this like my clitoris.
Oh, just
the whole thing.
A human clitoris.
Like, my whole body is the clitoris, especially I'm a huge well-hung words girl. That's what I call it. So I'm a words of affirmation girl. So I super love communication and so that's turns me on just as much as sex.
Okay, can we jump in then really quick you said that you've orgasmed through breath before.
Yes.
Can you share that with us? Because I think that also people think that the only orgasm is through genital stimulation. That's it. That's all we got. It's just, you got to get in there.
Oh my gosh. If there's one myth I could just deconstruct right now and have it crumble down to the ground.
Do it.
We just be like, hell no. Like, oh my God, orgasm. There are so many different types of orgasms we can have, especially women. I'm sorry. Women are just like, oh, it's just endless what type of orgasms. Like I can have energy orgasms, which means that somebody could like just hover above me with energy. I'm already feeling it. They could just hover above me with energy and I could like orgasm that way. I definitely like orgasm, yeah, with the breath. Like if I keep doing that, it's like orgasm breath work, it's like amazing. I could by smell, like have you ever smelled like, I don't know, gardenia flowers or something?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, and if the trick is to just be in the moment with it.
Yeah.
And you've activated your body already, right? So you've freed your energy systems in your body because you've been doing tantric practices. And it's just like you could literally, I have laughgasms, like if I'm laughing, I'll have just feeling my heart. Oh, crying. Like I love crying. I do it all the time. Like I actually teach crying classes because it's just it's a must, especially for men. Like I love making men cry. It's just
and not in an evil way, in a very loving way.
No, just having a safe space to finally like express. So I've had orgasms by like just crying and feeling into my own energy. And I haven't even gotten to being with a partner yet.
Like, yeah, you're not even, is this all solo? You're just having all these.
This is all solo.
Just so, like walking outside and feeling the breeze and
oh my God, yes.
Having orgasm.
I have breeze orgasms all the time. It's like totally. And that's why it's so amazing when I'm with a lover now, because I don't tell them this, but you know, if they're worried, they're like, oh, I can give you pleasure. And when I'm like, well, honey, like I could do it on a tree, you know, like, I just want to let you know that I can get off on a tree. So I have no doubt that you will, yes, be performing to your best ability.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, how did you develop that ability? And then, okay, can we clarify a little bit though? How would you define an orgasm? Because I mean, to me, it's like a, you know, crescendo of energy, right? It's an eruption of energy. It's a constant like energy build, and then it hits a peak point. But how, like when you're having an orgasm on your own, like from crying or laughing, like how would you describe it? Like, is it throughout your body? And is it tantric? What's that?
Full body orgasm.
Full body. Okay. And what's that? For those of us who don't know.
Oh, that's the other sessions that I do with clients. Just that. Like I will just do a series of 6 sessions on full body, preparing them for full body orgasm. And basically, it's just what you said. God, you're so tuned in, Whitney. Like, oh, I love it so much. Because it's freeing. First, you have to deal with some trauma, blockages. You know, we got to free up your energy fields through work. And sometimes it's a very quick process for some people, and sometimes it takes years. You know, it took me years. I mean, to go through this process, you know, of de-armoring and then like freeing up more and more energy and then allowing, you know, new energy to flow through my body. And so it's just allowing the energy to travel through your body. And when you said like, how did you learn how to do this? I mean, I really only have one answer, and that's Lourdes Star Shower. Like my teacher, she literally her trainings, like she saw me struggling with like moving the energy because I was overwhelmed by it. And I'm like, I can't move it. And she just helped through all the exercises that she does, because she does like shamanic breath work and she's a hypnotherapist. And it's like, this woman is amazing. And she's just like freed up all the energy. So it finally, one day, like literally in a workshop, it just like went and it just like expanded and went through to my hands, to my feet. And so now you have to expand your definition of orgasm. It's
Yeah.
not just genital orgasm. I want you to feel all of your body and begin to experience whole body orgasm, energetic field orgasms, even.
Whoa. That
That's
sounds
advanced.
big. Have you had one of those?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love them. Like fifth dimensional, like, oh yeah.
Wow.
I'm making up for lost time.
No,
I
I
like,
mean, I applaud. I think it's amazing. I'm applauding. It's just incredible all these experiences you're having, especially Raven, because again, I think when we look at like the whole of society and the population, I would say that like, or this many people have just, sex that we'll call it regular, but just like, not a lot of intimacy really, like just kind of basic. And not there's anything wrong with that. It's still delicious and delightful, but to experience what you and like this little sliver of the population has is like so leaps and bounds beyond what most of us think is possible. I think that's my point, is that we have such limiting beliefs about sex. It's like, well, this is a wham bam and that's what you got, and if you get to orgasm and come, then you're lucky, and if you don't, well,
yeah.
too bad.
Well, and I want it to be a lifestyle. I want you to, I really am here to help people experience freedom in their bodies.
Yeah.
And it
And
doesn't have to be a big shift. Like you don't have to go and live my lifestyle. I mean, you can, it's amazing. But I'm just saying you can keep your job, you can keep your corporate career, you can keep your family, and it doesn't have to be like you have to interrupt your whole life. Like it could just be a very internal process, like a spirituality, like an awakening. That's what I
Yeah.
feel like I'm here for. Is just like I really, more than anything, am here to see actually those small awakenings in people, because I know those are the ones that they're going to actually integrate.
Yes. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Because those are the things, it doesn't feel too big to be realistic. It's just like, oh, this isn't actually that big of a deal, but it is different. It's a new sensation. It's something that I can, a little opening. And then you're speaking to it of being spiritual. And, like we were kind of saying before, you can't separate the two. You can't separate this expressive sexuality from your emotions, from it is spirituality. And I think that's why it intimidates people, because here's the thing. When you orgasm, I always feel like something is opening to, like, it's like, this is bigger than me. Anyone who's had an orgasm has felt that, where it's like, where did that come from? Like that was, whoo, that feels
Yeah.
big and powerful. And it can be a really spiritual experience. And it's interesting because, you're talking about how women, especially with women with their orgasms, we can orgasm, have multiple orgasms, all different types of orgasms. And one early on in like sort of my spiritual journey, I got this strange thing that came to me during meditation, which was that the female orgasm is very important at this time. Like it will literally start to shift energy because it's so powerful, and we can have so many of them. Right. And I was just like, where did that come from? Like that's, but it was just like, and I was just like having this vision of women all in a room together, like having orgasms and like experience, and like, just because it's just energy, right? It's
Done it.
Tell us about it. Well, okay, then yeah, you probably lived my vision. What was it? Was that is like a workshop or something?
That's called tantric training. I mean, you
Okay.
gotta go to Lourdes. Like, yeah, you like experience this in a room full of women, and it's the most powerful thing I think I've ever experienced. Like, because I believe in sex magic, so I believe that when we are experiencing orgasm, it is a very godlike state. And
Yes.
so I encourage you to manifest through that state. So whatever it is you're calling in, I encourage you to do it and think about it and visualize it when you're in orgasm.
Ooh, beautiful. Could you tell us a little bit about sex magic? Because I've heard that term a lot and I actually don't know really what it is. If you're okay with sharing about that, or if it.
Yeah, I mean, I can share my version of it, which is just for me, it's about using this sexual energy for manifestation. So I believe it's the most powerful energy on the planet.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I will be with myself in orgasm, or I'll be with a lover in orgasm, and be just like what I described to you. I'll just be like, oh yeah, like have this visualization and just like, yeah. And it's absolutely like, I usually get better than what I visualize, to be honest. I've done it in like a pile of money. Like I've just like orgasmed and
Oh.
like hundreds.
Woo, make it rain.
Just like, yeah, just like, woo. So that's always fun. And like, just have fun with it. I've done it outdoors. Like, it's just like have and communion with Earth and with Gaia, you know, and
Mm,
like connected and grounded. And so
yeah.
just have fun with it and have fun with orgasm. Yeah.
Well, they are fun. They're super
Yes.
fun. And okay, another term I'm curious about is dakini. I hear that term a lot. I know you incorporate that term. What does that mean? What's a dakini?
Yeah.
It's
So
not. It's not like a type of bathing suit. I
it's
don't think.
not like a Star Wars character. No. So Dakini is a Sanskrit term for like a sacred, a feminine, divine feminine, sacred spiritual advisor.
Okay.
So it's
Oh,
like
got it.
divine, it's basically a woman, spiritual, sacred, spiritual, and sexual advisor. So just like a sacred spiritual shaman almost.
Ooh, beautiful. Okay. And so is that how you would describe that woman you mentioned that you worked with that was so wonderful? Was she a dakini?
She's definitely a Dakini, but I call her a priestess because she's at a much different level. Like she's been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
And she is one of the most powerful influences also because she's in her 60s and she's one of the most orgasmic women I've ever seen. And she's so super like vital, like with life and she there's something so healing in that for me. Like when we see sometimes we see our mothers and like how they age, you know, and we think like, oh well, I can only be, you know, sexual and beautiful for so long,
Yep.
you know. And so I'm sorry, when you see this woman, you're just like, I haven't even reached probably my prime yet.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I just find so devastating is that most of us, I mean, I think men and women, you know, we reach like late 30s and we're like, dang, I'm old. I'm getting old. I'm
Yeah.
getting used up. I'm past my prime. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute. But then, and more, you know, on my spiritual journey, but then I see this whole other sect of people who are just entering their best life into their 40s, into their 50s, in their 60s. And I'm like, well, wait a minute here. Like, what I see things a bit differently because I'm seeing increasing satisfaction, increasing
Yeah.
enjoyment, increasing pleasure, increasing freedom, increasing comfort. I'm like, I feel like things get better. Maybe our bodies change and we slow down but I don't, and I think people look fabulous as they get older too. So and that's another thing that I think I would love to see a shift in that is because what a shame to feel like we just are washed up at, you know, a certain age. What a waste.
Uh,
We got a lot of living left to do.
oh, Tantra has completely changed that for me because like everybody in the community is just like, for some reason, they're like super hot. They're like super turned on. And I'm just like, wow, how is everybody good looking? But yeah, I don't
It's the
know.
glow. They're glowing from
Yeah,
all the
it's
orgasms.
it's sexual life force energy. That's all it is. So
Yeah.
you let it flow, you glow.
Yeah.
I mean, I just made that up, so that's great. I'm gonna use
Woo!
it.
Trademark it.
But yeah, going on what you're talking about too, I mean, you'll recognize this maybe when you go into your 40s, but 40s is like women's sexual prime.
Yeah.
So men peak in their 20s, women peak in their 40s. So I always think that I always say to like the 20-year-olds, you know, when they come to me, I'm like, you are so smart to be coming to a woman in their 40s because like literally I'm noticing that like I'm on the libido wavelength of 25-year-olds right now, men. And I'm like,
Whoa.
what the heck? I'm like, this isn't working at all. But
It's not
uh,
working?
you know, it's new for me because I always dated older. I dated older
Uh-huh.
in my 30s. So now I'm like, I'm really taken back by it, but it's interesting how we are like compatible in that area now. And it's just because, so women, I just like, I tell this to women. I'm just like, listen, in your 40s, like, it is unreal. It's like, yeah,
Yay.
it's amazing.
Yes. Yes. And I would love to see a more, you know, more people shift into that mindset and embrace that. Because what a wonderful thing if we're like, awesome, I'm in my 30s and the best is still yet to come and it's going to keep getting better. rather than like this oppressive, like, oh gosh, no, like how can I stop time? How can I not age? It's like, woo, bring it, let's go.
Let's just orgasm through it.
Exactly. Just keep coming and everything will be fine all the time. Okay, so can we talk a little bit about, you had, and maybe you were already talking about it with like the breath stuff, but you had mentioned when we first talked that women can have 5 different orgasms, and I was like, okay, I want to know more about that, because I want to have all of them and I want to know what they all are.
Okay. Yeah. So these ones I'm talking about, these are genital orgasms.
Okay. Oh, okay. There's 5 just from the genitals.
Oh, yeah. And then some. So that all the other ones were like, energetic, full body orgasms. But yeah, so I can give you 3 of them, and then you'll have to contact me if you want the other 2.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Okay. So we all know about clitoral, right? So, and then we also know internally you can have a G spot orgasm. There's also an A spot that we have, and it's different in women, but it's going to be, again, like a spongy like texture. And so what I recommend for couples and is that to do a during especially the massage experience, if internal is open to them. Some people don't want internal massaging, in their experience, but to do clock, use a clock in a yoni. So like you're literally just going to like just put pressure on different points around the clock. This is not to stimulate. This is not to orgasm. Because we're looking for the spots. We're looking for the A spot. We're looking for the G spot. Okay, fine. That also anal orgasms. So there's that one too.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you them all because I want you to have good sex.
People are going to reach out to you anyways. They're going to want to know more about this.
So don't forget about vaginal opening orgasms. Oh my gosh. And so men that come to me with small penises, I'm like, oh my God, you're like the vaginal opening orgasm king. Like this is your jam. Like this is where you're going to thrive. Right.
Okay. Am I missing? What is it? Is it different? Is it different than like a penetrative, like a so
no,
clit's on the outside, and
it's literally the opening to the vagina.
Yeah.
So
you
like
have an orgasm right there.
Yeah. So if you provide, like, if you have friction just going in and out just in the opening, it will orgasm. I mean, most women will, some women won't, because we're all different. All of our bodies are different. So we don't, so depending on, so yeah, so that was the anal, the vaginal opening, the G spot, the A spot, and the clitoral. And then there's one more that I remember I was talking with somebody and they're like, well, what about, there's just so many, like.
Well, how do you know when you're having which one? Like, have you had all of them? And because maybe I've had them and I don't know. Like, do you know when you're having a clitoral versus a vaginal opening orgasm versus like?
Yeah. So you'll know when you do this work and you have sessions, we do sessions, because you'll be more tuned into your body. Like because what happens with us sometimes with women is we just kind of get sensation. We're used to just feeling sensation, or like one type of sensation, because we're used to sex pretty much one way. I mean, different positions and stuff like that, but you know what I mean. So when you slow down and you do those massages and you do the clock, you were like, oh, wow, what is that part? Like, I did that so much when I started getting yoni massages. I was like, what is that? Like, where is that? And that's the other cool thing about the clock is, like, if you do feel something good, you can say, where is that? And they'll say 3 o'clock. And then you could tell your lover, like, can you hit 3 o'clock? Like, so it's amazing, like, to.
Yeah. Well, the more that you know, right? The more you know always serves you. And, the more that we get to understand our bodies and how, because I think there is a lot of frustration, I think especially for women, right? About orgasming and coming and feeling like, nope, not in the cards for me. Or also like, oh God, too much trouble. I can't figure out how to make this, whatever's going on down there.
Or I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm tired. So I'm not even going to bother. But it sounds like you help people just figure out that it's really not like that crazy, that it can actually be approachable and achievable.
Yeah, an orgasm might be after working for a couple years. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I feel like women, it's up to us to respect our freaking bodies. So
Mhm.
like if I go in for body work and I've got trauma and I've got all this stuff, like maybe I do need 2 years no penetration, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Listening to, and I think that's something that's hard for us and not very common in our culture, is to honor our bodies.
Yeah,
I think we're really taught to push our bodies to the limit and, and literally not listen to our bodies.
yeah,
And I know I've been guilty of that, where it's like, nope, this is, I want to do this. I want to make this happen. So I'm going to push, I'm going to not sleep. I'm going to work too much. I'm doing all this. And I don't want to hear my body, because my body is going to try to tell me something that might not be convenient to what I'm trying to do. But when
yeah.
we do that, it's, our body is our greatest ally. It works every day around the clock for us. And so it's important to respect it and listen to it.
Yes, that's I'd say is one of the most important messages for sure for women. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think being able to work with someone on that and to talk with someone about that, because that's not something we often talk about,
No. And it's also not like socially appropriate. Like, you know what I mean? The society does not respect and honor us slowing down and taking care of ourselves as priority, you
Yeah,
know?
no, it doesn't. And or to get attuned with ourselves, in touch with ourselves and with our sexuality. And to me, that's ironic, because those of us who feel connected to the concept of the goddess, of the creatrix, um, we originally were like the most powerful sexually expressive things that ever existed. That's what our essence is, right? Like
Yeah.
we create life, like it comes from us.
Yeah.
And yet now we're in this crazy weird place where we are so shut down.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's what really draws me towards this work and having this conversation, is to really reawaken. Like, women waken to me is like a request to women, like, women wake up to who we truly are, what we can truly be, what we've always been, but have been shut down to. And because when that changes, again, like the female orgasm, so powerful, when we're having and generating more of that energy, things are going to start to change. We're going to start to remember, like, this was never us. We used to be very different, and we were, revered as these powerful goddesses that we still are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would even extend that and say, think about altering your life in a way that maybe you would have never thought of, but that might be more supportive of you embodying your goddess energy. For instance, it might look like moving in with another family. It might look like moving in with your parents, or getting rid of your house altogether and traveling. You know what I mean? Like, because it's just so worth it. It's so worth it. I did this. I took out my retirement to take those sexuality workshops for a year, and just to do me for a year. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't not be me any longer. I was
Yeah.
just like, I have to figure out who this is.
Yeah.
It feels
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. And you're right, it can be, unconventional, because I've basically just hit everything you just did. I got rid of my house a year ago. I've been on the road ever since. And then for a while I lived with my parents. So, and it's not like standard for someone, but I was like, I don't give a shit. It's what I felt called to do. I was like, this is what I need right now. I'm not meant to be somewhere yet. Right. There's a time and a place for everything, but I was like, I'm meant to be moving right now. And I don't know why, but this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And, I know that the time will come where I feel a different call, but yeah, to your point, I think that trusting, our guidance, but I think that society doesn't give much room for that. For people who feel like they need to follow societal standards,
Yeah.
where's the space for that? No, by your 30, you're supposed to be, if you're not married, well, then you at least need to have a stable job and your own home and all of these things. But it's like, well, what if I don't feel aligned with that at all?
Yeah. So it's going to come down to either society or you.
Yes. Yeah. And I hope that more and more women start saying, I want to do what I feel. I'm going to do me and see where that goes. Because then that's how this current structure starts to break down, is when we don't play into it anymore. And we say, is that working for me? Is it working for anyone? You know?
Yeah, and I encourage women to like step out into goddess circles, whether
Yes.
it be virtual or in person, or trainings or workshops, like whatever speaks to you at whatever level you're at. You know, it could be just a meditation or a yoga class, or, you know, Tantra in Bali. Like whatever it is, uh, you know, I please contact me. Like I have so many resources. I have a sisterhood that's so humongous that I've got such powerful forces behind me that I can refer you to someone, you know, to connect you in
Yeah.
a group or training.
Yeah. So beautiful. Oh, I remember, Raven, after we first talked, I had a client who was curious with exploring sex parties with their partner. They're trying to kind of shake things up and switch around their sex life. And you gave me wonderful resources to offer them. So, and I'm so big on that. That's a big, sole purpose I feel I have, is to allow people to connect with each other, have more resources readily available so that we're all working together, right? Community, connection.
Yes.
We're all in this together, and we're all meant to, you have certain resources that I don't have, I have some that you don't, and we all share together. And then we have this network going that's just beautiful and brilliant, where everyone, yes. And that's my vision that I have, is this much more communal, connected network of beings.
Yeah,
we're orgasming all the time.
Yes, yes. That reminds me too that I have referrals and references for nudist resorts or kink or BDSM, or like every level. I've played it at all. No judgments at all. Like I really encourage everybody to come out with their truest desires. And to just ask, because that alone sometimes is the freedom. It's not getting it, it's asking for it.
Yes. Yeah. And because that's the first part, that's the hardest part, is to actually let it come out. The request, the question, the truth, right? Expressing our truth. That's freedom. That's where you're like, okay, there it is. We no longer stifle something down. We let it come out. And then we become more free.
Yeah. It's incredible. So.
Beautiful. Well, Raven, your work is amazing. And you mentioned if people want to find these resources or find you, how can they find you? How can they work with you? Give us all your stuff.
Yes, so please contact me from my website. I'll give you permission to share my contact information. I am really one-on-one based right now. Like I have in previous businesses I've launched on social media and online with programs and stuff like that. And I just realized that like Tantra is such a precious baby to me that I keep it one-on-one. Like, so please, it's just going to be a conversation over the phone with me and you, and how we can work together, or referrals, or what groups you need to go to and see. And so I definitely am here and available.
Beautiful. And did you give us your website? What's your
Oh,
website?
my website is livinginpleasure.com.
Perfect. And that'll be in the show notes too. And then I know that you're also online. You're on some of the social medias. So we'll put your links.
And I do have one before we go. I do have a request, because I really want to model women asking for something that they truly desire. And so I'm enrolling everybody in to be a matchmaker, whoever's listening to this, because I am currently dating, tantric dating right now. And I know that there's somebody that knows a good man with really good communication skills, with a big heart, who's single, and would love to go out on a date with a goddess. And so I am enrolling you, my sisterhood, in matchmaking me with my dharmic life mate.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love that you're putting that out there. Yeah. Everybody, bring it in.
Bring it in. I'm creating the intention that, like, we all know beautiful men.
Yes, we do. I mean, again, connecting resources, right? Like let's network and find out how we can move quicker into our soulmates, sexual mate.
I know someone's got a brother.
I love it. All right, Raven, we're going to get those matchmaking for you. We're going to give those gifts to you. Thank you for sharing your gifts with us.
Yes.
Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for your courage.
You do. This is amazing. Like, you are kicking ass, seriously.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's so much fun. And someday when I'm not in my phase of bouncing from place to place, which if anybody has been watching my videos, I'm basically in a different background every week.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
someday I want a beautiful backdrop like yours. I love I was telling you your golden curtain, and I've already envisioned when I settle down in a place, I'm going to have like this whole studio that's like brilliant and probably gold. Now I'm inspired by the gold.
Yeah. It's super luxurious. I love the energy. So.
Yeah. And I just wish you had like a cape, almost like wearing your gold cape or something. Oh, but you are.
Hey, I'll use this. Maybe I can do this. My little pink cape.
There it is.
Tantric cape.
Love it. Ooh,
Reporting for pleasure. I'm reporting for pleasure duty.
The superhero of sex, the sexual tantric superhero.
Orgasmic. Yes. Tantra hero.
Oh my gosh. And now we just need to find your Mr. Orgasmic.
Yes. Oh, my Mr. Orgasm. Yes. That's great, Whitney. I never did that.
And then you'll have matching capes and you'll both come on the show.
Oh, yes. And then we're
calling it in.
We'll teach programs together.
Yes. I love it. All right, Raven. Well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Yes, you as well. Have a beautiful day. Have an orgasmic day.
Oh, thank you. I think I will. Hopefully one with the breeze.
Yeah, go out to the breeze.
I'm thinking like breeze, the trees, like it doesn't stop anywhere. I don't know. Hopefully there's an orgasmic adventure awaiting for me.
Always.
Always. I love it. All right, Raven, thank you.
Sister.